Divine greetings, everyone. My name is Cassandra. If you guys are new here, I am the witch, author, poet, and performer of Magic of Eden. I am super excited to have you in my space today. And if you guys are returning, hey family, welcome back. It is always an honor to be in your space, and I am so glad to be in your space so that we can cover today's topic. So those of you guys that don't know, I've been doing this thing recently where on Instagram, I will post in my story for you guys to ask me a question, and I'll go ahead and I'll link something over here and then I'll answer it in a video. Today, the question that I'll be answering is, how can I show up for myself without feeling selfish? One of the things that I want to say is that I set the intention that this message be timeless, and I also set the intention that it serves whoever it needs, no matter where they are, no matter what time it is, and no matter what they are going through. I set the intention that this video is timeless and that it reaches you in divine timing, and that you also take what you need and that you leave what you do not. I want to bring awareness and say that you obviously are someone that has profound intuition. I feel like you're somebody more than likely that is an empath. I feel like you are someone that really does show up and care for others, even when you feel that you don't have any energy to show up and care for other people. I feel that you are someone that will give endlessly and that you care deeply about the people that you care about. And I believe that that is a beautiful thing. I do feel that sometimes we believe that if we show up for ourselves, not show up for other people, that somehow we are bad people, or that there's something wrong with us, or that we're wrong for taking care of ourselves. I want to ask you, do you feel that you have any traumas or wounds regarding showing up for yourself and or overgiving? The reason why I ask this is because sometimes when we feel like we are wrong or we feel guilty about showing up for ourselves without showing up for other people, or not being able to give anything, it's usually because somewhere down the line, whether in our childhood or whether in our adult lives, we were made to feel like showing up for ourselves was wrong. Now, I do feel that sometimes this can be an indication of a childhood wound. Sometimes when we have parents who don't know how to show up for themselves, they sometimes tend to project that onto their kids, and then these kids grow into their teenage years, into their early adult years, mid-adult years, and then later down the line, they never really know how to show up for themselves without feeling guilty. They really don't know what it's like to be able to show up for oneself or show that self-love or self-gratitude or self-care, because they're constantly overpouring for the sake of other people, because they've always been made to feel as though their value is dependent on how much they can contribute to other people. Now, going back to those inner child wounds, what I do want to say is that sometimes we end up, and not even just inner child wounds, sometimes there is a wound regarding showing up for ourselves because we are surrounded by people who feel like they cannot show up for themselves, and so then there's the expectation that someone else should. And then sometimes I do feel that there are people who genuinely fall into the trap or into the delusion that there is someone outside of them that is responsible for their happiness, when in actuality there isn't. When in actuality no one is responsible for their well-being or their happiness but themselves, and it really is a matter of perspective. Now, I do want to state that there are some people in this world, or who are around us, who feel as though they have their own wounds, or they may not even be aware that they have wounds regarding people showing up for them and them showing up for themselves. And then sometimes when they have their own issues, whether it be through abandonment, whether it be through selfishness, there are moments and times where these people will project these things onto us. And sometimes what ends up happening is they feel empty, they feel that there is a void, they feel that there's something that needs to be filled within them, and so they look to that for other sources. It's almost kind of like when you have like a certain diet, right? Or like you eat certain foods and then your body's not getting enough nutrients. Eventually your body's going to tell you, hey, I need to be filled up, I need more nutrients, I need you to look for other sources. There's something within them that is not full, and they need to look for that in other sources. But in actuality, what they could do is go within themselves and figure out, okay, what is it that I'm missing? Because they're constantly looking outside of themselves and not focusing on the internal world to see what is missing, then eventually what they'll end up doing is they'll start to project that onto other people, because they're looking for something to fill them up, and they will go within the next best thing. Now, they may not know that they're doing this, but it's very problematic, and it's also very irresponsible, because what they're saying is that I need this person to do this because I feel a lack here. And sometimes they are also dealing with the traumas or wounds surrounding them wanting people to show up for them. them. And then when they see someone or they feel someone who intuitively they know has their best interest at heart and will give what they can, sometimes what they do is, because they're in survival, they will make it seem as if that person that has an open heart is responsible, or they make that person responsible by guilt tripping them into believing that they have to show up for them, even though they have their own things that they're going through. So I want to point that out. And to you, I say that if you are, take it as it resonates, someone that is surrounded by people who make you feel that way, then 100% it is time to detach. It is time to move away from these circles. It is time to move away from these people. It is time to move away from those places, because I can tell based off the question that you asked that you are someone right now who really does need to focus on self-care. Now, with that, I also want to mention setting boundaries. And the reason is because by you setting boundaries, what you're letting the other person know is, this is what I can do, this is what I'm willing to do, and this is what I am not willing to do. With setting boundaries comes communication. You have to be able to effectively articulate and convey what it is that you can do, and also convey and express what you cannot do. And if the person or people have a problem with what you are saying, then evidently that is not a you problem. Now, this is going to go into something else, and I'll get to that later on in the video. Now, I want you to know that setting boundaries is essential, because that is you showing up for yourself. It's not an act of selfishness. I'm going to go more into that later as well. It's something that is needed in order for you to sustain yourself, but also it is needed for you to thrive and for healing. Remember, you are a singularity amongst other singularities. We are all a multiplicity of singularities that make up the all. And because we are all singularities, that means that we are all individuals. And because we are all individuals, there are certain things that we are going to have to do. No one knows you like you. No one can treat you like you. No one can do the things for you the way that you do things for you. And at the end of the day, it is essential for you to be able to have that space and that time to care for yourself. Now, how do you do this without feeling selfish? It's a matter of perspective, and it's a matter of you understanding that you can only do what you can do. So it's going to take a lot of practice, and it's also going to take for you to detach from any mindset or any perspective or any habit of doing these things, even when you know that you can't. And it's going to take a matter of practice. You have to train your mind into believing, into knowing, I am worthy of showing up for myself. I am free of doubt, guilt, and fear around showing up for myself. And I do feel that once you do start getting in the habit of that, and the habit of thinking that, the next thing you know, it'll become an action. You have to start practicing, because the only way for you to obtain a goal is to execute it through action. It's one thing for you to meditate on it. It's one thing for you to think about it, but things that are in the mental realm do not always manifest in the physical realm. And so it's one thing to think and to program the mind, but we also have to do that with applied action. And that is the reason why that's important. But in order for us to apply that action, we have to be able to detach from any ideas, any perspectives or mindsets where we believe that we have to show up for other people for the sake of keeping these relationships strong. Because 9 times out of 10, or more often times than not, if you set a boundary and say, hey, I'm unable to show up for you in this way right now, or I'm unable to show up for you, more than likely, if that person feels any kind of way about that, or if they make you feel guilty in any way, shape, or form, then more than likely that person really just wanted to gain from you anyway. And that is how you know that you're dealing with an energy vampire, which I'll go into in another video. Now, I want to say this though. I want to distinguish people who are always taking from people and then have the nerve to say things like, oh, well, I'm sorry, I can't show up for you right now, self-care. No, because there are people in this world who actually will give to you and who do pour into you. And if you know someone, or if you are somebody that just takes and takes and takes from people and always wants people to show up for you, and then you're not showing up for people, you have not yet understood the power of balance, and you still need work in understanding the power of divine masculinity and divine femininity, and how they both need each other in order to be whole, and how we actually all embody those traits, and how we all have those energies. This goes beyond gender. This has everything to do with the energy, because if you spend so much time taking and taking and taking, well, then the divine masculine is being abused. And so maybe it would be a time in your life where maybe you do want to do acts of service to show up for the world, or show up for other people that you care about. But it's all a matter of being in balance with those two energies. Now, In your case, what I'm feeling is that you spend a lot of time in your divine masculinity where you have a lot of control and where you're always doing something for the sake of someone else, and then that leaves you with nothing for yourself. And that right there is an indication that you do need to show up for yourself for the sake of balance. And with that to you, I say, it is okay for you to put yourself in a divine feminine state, because more than likely your divine femininity wants to show right now. And more than likely you do need someone to show up for you in ways that they can. And that reminds me, I also want to state that if you can show up, do it, as long as you have the capacity. Now, I want to move on and move forward to this idea of selfishness, right? Because even though we believe that we should be selfish, I want to say that selfishness is needed, but in a very controlled way and in a way that supports everyone, right? People have this idea around selfishness as, I want to be so selfish and I'm going to be selfish, but I don't care about what happens to other people. No, we're not doing it for that reason, because there are people out there who will be selfish at the detriment and at the expense of other people. And that's what we don't want, right? Because of course we want to make sure that we are there for ourselves to show up in a better light for the people that we love and care about. Therefore, it is really imperative to know, if I am showing up for myself, is this going to tarnish my relationships? If so, how is it going to tarnish the bonds and relationships that I already do have? And if it's not, okay, then great. Now, I want to make it clear one more time that if you are someone who was constantly showing up for other people and you know that for a fact, and then you state that you can't show up, and then that person or people then start to turn on you, those are not the people that you want to be around, because they are there to take from you. Let's be rational. We also have to understand that in conjunction with our intuition, we also have to be very rational. And so it is irrational to constantly overgive and overgive and overgive at your own detriment, because what are you going to be left with at the end of the day? You came into this world alone, and we all know how you're going to be going out. So basically, you want to make sure that you distinguish people who understand that you need to show up for yourself, and you want to make sure that you're not doing things in a way that is destructive to other people, because oftentimes they're not. Again, there are people out in this world who will do things solely because they want to and solely because they are selfish, but it is needlessly selfish, and that is not what we want to do, right? But more than likely, if you're watching this video, then you are not someone that is like that. You actually do care about other people, and that's why you ask the question anyway. I also do feel that the way that you show up for yourself without feeling selfish is remembering to let go of control, because more often than not, for some of you guys, take it as it resonates, the reason why you're worried about seeming selfish is because you don't want people to have a certain perception of you. Sometimes, or more oftentimes than not, we have to detach and surrender to the fact that people may believe that we are selfish, but if that person is not operating from a space of higher wisdom, then how are they going to understand how you're moving? Anyone who knows you and who knows what type of space that you're in right now, and even if they didn't understand, allowing you that space and that time to figure yourself out and show up for yourself is needed. And also, if those people are not understanding, then they are not operating from a higher standpoint. And why should you ever fall victim to or allow yourself to be chained to somebody else's perception or idea as to how you should show up? At the end of the day, detach from the ideas that you have surrounding how they're going to view you, and start paying more attention into filling your cup, because anyone who respects you and anyone who respects themselves sees, you know what? I see that this person is trying to show up. Let me go ahead and give that person their space. Let me take notes to see how I can also do what they're doing and show up for myself, because instead of me being upset, I'm going to be inspired. Those are the people that you want around, right? Those are the people that you want to interact with, because they are also learning how to fill their cup up so that they can also show up for other people when the time comes. And the same for you. And now I want you to remember that showing up also is very subjective. You can do the things that you can do, and you will do the things that you want to do. But the key thing here is to do things that you know that you can do, that is within your limits, or that is within what you are able to do. If it is out of your capacity, Spirit says turn the other way. Unfortunately, you are not able to show up in that way. But if you can show up in a way that is supportive, then do so. And I'm going to give you a short story here, just real quick. I'm not making it about me. I just want to give you guys a really quick story. After my husband passed away back in 2022, I did have someone tell me, they could not be here for me. Now, this was someone that I was there for all the time. I always made sure that I made time for that person. I always made sure that I gave this person an ear. And even if all I could offer was an ear, that is what I gave. But for whatever reason, you know, they were going through their own stuff. They were going through their own life or whatever. And they blatantly told me, you know, I cannot show up for you right now, right? Okay, you know, I get it. You know, we all go through our things. I wasn't looking for this person to be my therapist. I wasn't looking for this person to listen to me talk for hours upon hours upon hours. I was not looking for this person to be there for me so that I can give them my emotions and use them as an emotional dump. No, the way that I felt that these people could have showed up for me was they could have at least, hey, sent a text. Hey, Cass, how are you feeling? Hey, Cassie, how are you doing? I'm letting you know that I love you. But in this person's idea, they couldn't do anything. They couldn't be here for me at all. So that's why I say that showing up for people, and, you know, showing up for people is subjective. And although we may have our feelings, at the end of the day, you can do what you can do. Now, if you're like me, you're going to do what you can do. You know, you're going to do what you're able to do, and you're not going to make yourself feel guilty about that because you are no longer in a space where you feel like you have to, and you never had to begin with. So it's a matter of perspective and knowing that showing up is a subjective thing. You will do what you can do, and you should only do what you can do without any hesitation and without any guilt or shame. That is also something that we must detach from, because the more that we attach ourselves to guilt, to shame, to the idea that we're selfish, then the less likely we are to show up for ourselves, because we're doing it for the sake of other people anyway. And at some point we have to say, you know what? I am responsible for my own actions. I am responsible for my well-being. I am responsible for my own mental health. I am responsible for my own spiritual health. And therefore I must do what I must do, and I will do what I must do in order to ensure that I am at a space of balance. Because at the end of the day, it is all about responsibility, right? Take it from me. I'm ruled by Saturn. I know a thing or two about being responsible. Trust me. I feel like remembering that responsibility is very important. We are responsible for our own selves. And we also, again, can show up as enhancements for other people and show up as a way to help bring people together and show up in ways that we can. That's a beautiful thing. But how are we going to really know how to show up for other people if we don't even know how to show up for ourselves? It starts from the internal world. It must come from within us first. And it's okay for you to know that, and it's okay for you to act on that. Anyone who was meant to be in your circle will understand, and anyone who does not understand, sometimes you just gotta give them the boot. And I don't mean for you to just, like, you know, cut people off. I mean, if that's how you want to roll, I mean, that's how you roll. It's all good. You know, no shame in your game. Like, do what you gotta do. But what I am saying is that sometimes, more oftentimes than not, when we are evolving, we will see who is meant to be around us while we're evolving and who's not. It is what it is, right? Remember, do what you can do. And the way that you show up for yourself without feeling any selfishness is by understanding that it is all about perspective. You don't have to show up for yourself to such a degree where you hurt other people purposely, or you don't absolutely care about them at all, right? You want to make sure that you are showing up for yourself in a way that is not detrimental to the mental health of your other people. However, if they have some type of attachment to you to such a degree where they make you feel that you can't be there for yourself, then that person has some inner work to do. Because anyone who knows that you are showing up for you for the sake of your health, they're going to be in support of that. Because at the end of the day, you are showing up for you. And more than likely, if this is a partner, right? If you have a partner, you're showing up for yourself to be a better you, and therefore can in turn show up as a better friend, as a better sister, as a better mother, as a better father or brother, or whoever you are. You can show up as the highest version of yourself when you allow yourself the space in the room and the energy to be there for yourself. Because at the end of the day, it starts with you. All right? I hope that this answered your question. I'm also going to be doing a pick a deck reading regarding this. In what way do I need to show up for myself right now? That is going to be the title of the next pick a deck reading that I do. And then I'm also going to be doing another video with another question that someone asked me. So if you guys have any questions, you guys can feel free to comment down in the comment section. You guys can also email me at info@CassandraTurner.com. I'll put the link down in the description box. And make sure that you send this video to somebody that you know needs it, that you know needs to hear it, because it's a world out there, y'all. It is a world out there. All right. So yes, also, I am doing the best that I can to create more content for you guys. And if you feel like it, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Also, make sure that you hit the notification bell so that you know when I do upload. My goal is to upload at least once a week and or twice a week because I really do love readings. I also want to mention, I am an artist and I am a writer first and foremost. So a lot of my niche is merging the arts of poetry and magic. Yes, I will upload videos about magic and witchcraft and things of that nature, but I also have a calling to show up for the world via poetry. Well, show up in the world using poetry and using art as an outlet. So that is what I will be doing. You will be seeing content based on that, and also whatever content that you need to help you along your spiritual journey. Remember, we are all in this together, and I love you. Okay? Now, I appreciate the time that we've spent here. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in my next video.